Faith becomes your only shield when you walk among the damned, pretending to worship dark gods whose whispers promise power while threatening your very soul. The taste of corrupted wine and burnt offerings still lingers in my mouth, like spiritual poison that marked every ritual where I knelt beside true believers whose devotion to chaos would have justified my immediate execution. My name is Infiltrator Cassandra Vex, former agent of the Ordo Malleus, until the mission that required me to become something I'd spent my life fighting against. You think that makes me a heretic who trafficked with forbidden powers, but you don't know what I discovered in the hidden temples where humanity's darkest impulses are celebrated as divine revelation. The corruption still calls to me through dreams that feel more real than waking memories, promising truths that faith cannot answer. This is my testimony of descent into darkness, where loyalty battles temptation and the soul becomes the ultimate battlefield between order and chaos. Chapter 1: The Malefic Assignment. The Ordo Malleus facility on Cadia Prime operated under levels of security that exceeded even the most classified Imperial institutions, where agents received training in the most dangerous forms of investigation that the Inquisition dared to pursue against the forces of chaos. The fortress monastery complex housed specialized equipment and forbidden knowledge that existed nowhere else in the Imperium, their very presence constituting heretical materials that could justify exterminatus protocols if discovered by unauthorized personnel outside the carefully vetted Malleus hierarchy. My selection for deep infiltration operations followed 10 years of exemplary service in conventional chaos cult investigation and demonstrated spiritual resilience that satisfied the most stringent psychological evaluation the Inquisition could devise for personnel who would face direct exposure to corrupting influences. The selection process involved months of testing, designed to identify agents whose faith could withstand systematic exposure to heretical doctrine, while maintaining operational effectiveness and absolute loyalty to imperial authority, despite immersion in environments designed to break human will and corrupt the soul. The briefing chamber where I received my assignment was consecrated with sacred oils and blessed by the highest ecclesiastical authorities, its walls inscribed with protective prayers and imperial iconography designed to strengthen spiritual defenses against the corruption I would encounter during deep infiltration operations. Inquisitor Lord Thaddeus Kane conducted the briefing personally, his 40 years of experience with chaos cult investigation providing authority that emphasized both the importance and danger of the mission I was being asked to undertake. The Crimson Path represents the most sophisticated and dangerous chaos cult we've encountered in this sector, Inquisitor Kane explained, his voice carrying the weight of experience with enemies whose corruption could destroy souls as efficiently as any physical weapon. Their infiltration of imperial institutions has reached levels that threaten sector-wide security, while their theological sophistication suggests leadership with extensive knowledge of both imperial doctrine and chaos philosophy. We need detailed intelligence about their operations, leadership structure, and immediate strategic objectives. The target organization had been operating for approximately 15 years, while maintaining perfect operational security that prevented conventional imperial investigation from penetrating beyond their outer recruitment networks and preliminary indoctrination activities. The cult's sophistication exceeded anything typically encountered in chaos operations, involving recruitment strategies that targeted educated imperial citizens and infiltration techniques that avoided detection by standard Inquisition monitoring protocols designed to identify heretical activity. The cover identity prepared for my infiltration involved extensive background documentation establishing me as Eleanor Corvus, a mid-level administratum clerk whose family had died during orc raids in the Cronus system, while leaving her psychologically vulnerable to recruitment by organizations promising meaning and belonging. The identity was comprehensive and verifiable, including employment records, personal history, and psychological profile that would explain both my availability for recruitment and the gradual behavioral changes that successful conversion would require. The psychological preparation for infiltration involves studying chaos theology and cult recruitment techniques, while building mental defenses that could resist actual conversion despite extended exposure to sophisticated indoctrination programs designed to break down spiritual resistance. The preparation was intensive and dangerous, requiring careful balance between sufficient knowledge to maintain convincing cover and protective ignorance that prevented actual corruption through forbidden theological education. The spiritual conditioning provided by Malleus chaplains included advanced prayer techniques and meditation practices designed to strengthen faith while providing psychological anchors that would maintain loyalty despite exposure to heretical doctrine and corrupting influences that could undermine imperial devotion through systematic spiritual manipulation. The conditioning was essential and ongoing, acknowledging that infiltration missions required spiritual protection beyond anything available through conventional religious preparation. The equipment provided for infiltration operations included concealed communication devices and emergency extraction protocols, while maintaining complete deniability should my cover be compromised during cult investigation activities. The equipment was sophisticated and minimal, designed to provide essential operational support while avoiding detection by cult security measures that might identify Imperial agents through technological signatures or suspicious behavior patterns. The insertion into target population was conducted through carefully orchestrated encounters that appeared coincidental while placing me in situations where cult recruiters would identify me as potential candidate for preliminary recruitment activities. The insertion required months of careful positioning and behavioral conditioning while establishing social connections that would make recruitment appear natural rather than the result of deliberate Imperial infiltration operations. The initial contact with cult recruiters occurred at a grief counseling session where my cover identity's psychological vulnerability would attract attention from cult representatives seeking individuals whose emotional state made them susceptible to alternative spiritual guidance and community belonging. The contact was subtle and professional, involving recruitment techniques that demonstrated sophisticated understanding of human psychology and emotional manipulation. The preliminary recruitment process involved gradual introduction to cult philosophy through social activities and discussion groups that presented heretical concepts as intellectual exploration rather than religious conversion, while building personal relationships that created emotional investment in cult community and belonging. The process was carefully designed to break down intellectual resistance while creating social pressure that made rejection of cult teachings increasingly difficult and personally costly. The theological education provided during early recruitment phases included careful introduction to chaos philosophy, presented as misunderstood imperial doctrine, and alternative interpretation of traditional religious concepts that challenged conventional understanding without obviously violating imperial religious law. The education was sophisticated and seductive, using intellectual curiosity and spiritual questioning to create openings for more dangerous theological concepts and heretical spiritual practices. The social integration activities organized by cult recruiters included community service projects and cultural events that demonstrated cult commitment to positive social change while providing opportunities for deeper theological discussion and personal relationship building. The activities were carefully designed to create positive associations with cult membership, while gradually normalizing concepts that would have been immediately recognized as heretical in conventional imperial religious contexts. The psychological evaluation conducted by cult leadership involved careful assessment of my spiritual condition and intellectual capacity while determining my suitability for advanced theological education and deeper integration into cult hierarchy and operational activities. The evaluation was thorough and professional, demonstrating cult sophistication that exceeded typical chaos cult capabilities, while revealing the careful planning that characterized their recruitment operations. The advancement through preliminary cult hierarchy involved demonstration of theological understanding and personal commitment, while gaining access to more sensitive cult activities and advanced spiritual practices that revealed the true nature of their heretical beliefs and operational objectives. The advancement was gradual and carefully controlled, requiring consistent demonstration of genuine conversion while maintaining internal spiritual defenses that prevented actual corruption. The living arrangements provided for advancing cult members included communal housing and shared resources that created economic dependency while facilitating constant surveillance and peer pressure that reinforced cult loyalty and spiritual commitment. The arrangements were comprehensive and controlling, designed to eliminate external influences while creating total immersion in cult ideology and community relationships. The work assignments given to cult members included both legitimate employment that maintained cover identities and cult-specific activities that served organizational objectives while building skills and knowledge necessary for advanced operational responsibilities. The assignments were varied and purposeful, contributing to both individual development and collective cult capabilities while maintaining operational security through compartmentalization and need-to-know restrictions. Chapter 2, Among the Faithful. The transition from preliminary recruitment to active cult membership required participating in initiation rituals that tested both spiritual commitment and psychological resilience, while exposing initiates to theological concepts that reveal the true heretical nature of cult beliefs and practices. The rituals were elaborate and disturbing, combining elements of imperial religious tradition with obviously corrupting influences that challenged every aspect of proper spiritual development, while creating powerful emotional experiences that bound participants to cult community through shared transgression. The theological education that accompanied advancement into active membership included detailed study of chaos philosophy and practical instruction in corrupting spiritual practices that directly violated imperial religious law while claiming to reveal hidden truths about the nature of divinity and cosmic order. The education was comprehensive and seductive, using intellectual sophistication to make heretical concepts appear reasonable, while gradually eroding spiritual defenses through systematic exposure to forbidden knowledge. The community structure within the cult revealed sophisticated organization that combined elements of religious hierarchy with operational security measures designed to protect cult activities from imperial investigation, while maintaining discipline and loyalty among members through mutual surveillance and collective responsibility for organizational security. The structure was efficient and paranoid, demonstrating leadership understanding of both spiritual manipulation and operational security requirements. The daily routine established for cult members involved balance between legitimate employment that maintained cover identities and cult-specific activities that included theological study, spiritual practices, and operational training that prepared members for various roles within cult hierarchy and mission activities. The routine was demanding and comprehensive, creating total immersion in cult ideology while maintaining external appearances that prevented detection by imperial authorities. The spiritual practices introduced during active membership included meditation techniques and ritual activities that claimed to enhance spiritual awareness while actually creating psychological vulnerability to corrupting influences and chaotic spiritual entities that sought human agents for their material world activities. The practices were subtle and progressive, gradually introducing concepts and techniques that would have been immediately recognized as heretical if presented without careful psychological preparation. The recruitment activities assigned to advancing members included identification and assessment of potential candidates, while learning sophisticated psychological manipulation techniques that enabled effective conversion of resistant individuals through systematic exploitation of personal vulnerabilities and emotional needs. The activities provided insight into cult expansion strategies while requiring participation in spiritual corruption that challenged my operational security and personal spiritual integrity. The leadership structure within the cult included multiple levels of authority and specialization that reflected both spiritual advancement and operational capability, while maintaining security through compartmentalization that limited individual knowledge of overall cult activities and strategic objectives. The structure was professional and hierarchical, demonstrating organizational sophistication that exceeded typical chaos cult capabilities, while revealing the careful planning that characterized their long-term strategic development. The financial operations conducted by cult members included both legitimate business activities that provided cover and funding, while also involving illegal activities that generated resources for cult expansion and operational activities that served their heretical spiritual objectives. The operations were diverse and sophisticated, demonstrating understanding of imperial economic systems, while maintaining security through careful money laundering and operational compartmentalization. The communication networks established within cult hierarchy utilize both conventional methods and esoteric spiritual practices that claim to enable direct consciousness communication between members while actually creating vulnerability to chaotic spiritual influences that could compromise individual will and spiritual integrity. The networks were effective and dangerous, facilitating coordination while creating opportunities for corruption that exceeded anything achievable through conventional psychological manipulation. The security measures implemented by cult leadership included surveillance of members and elaborate counterintelligence operations designed to identify potential Imperial agents, while maintaining operational security through careful vetting and compartmentalization that limited individual access to sensitive information and activities. The measures were comprehensive and paranoid, reflecting awareness of Imperial infiltration attempts, while demonstrating the resources and expertise available to cult leadership. The operational training provided to trusted members included instruction in combat techniques and covert operations, while building capabilities for various mission activities that served cult strategic objectives and expansion plans throughout Imperial territory. The training was professional and comprehensive, demonstrating access to expertise that suggested infiltration of Imperial military institutions or recruitment of qualified personnel from legitimate Imperial security organizations. The theological advancement available to dedicated members involved deeper study of chaos philosophy and practical instruction in corrupting spiritual techniques that promised enhanced spiritual awareness while actually creating systematic spiritual degradation that served chaotic entities seeking human agents for material world influence. The advancement was seductive and dangerous, offering genuine knowledge while exacting spiritual costs that could permanently compromise individual salvation and Imperial loyalty. The social events organized by cult leadership included cultural activities and educational programs that appeared benign while actually serving indoctrination purposes and community building that reinforced cult loyalty through positive social experiences and intellectual stimulation. The events were carefully designed to create emotional attachment to cult community, while gradually normalizing concepts and behaviors that would facilitate deeper spiritual corruption and operational commitment. The personal relationships formed with other cult members created emotional bonds that complicated my operational objectives while providing insights into cult psychology and the effectiveness of their conversion techniques on individuals from various Imperial backgrounds and social circumstances. The relationships were genuine and troubling, demonstrating the human cost of cult activities while revealing the sophisticated psychological techniques employed to maintain member loyalty and commitment. The ritual activities that marked spiritual advancement included ceremonies that combined elements of Imperial religious tradition with obviously heretical practices that directly invoked chaotic spiritual entities while claiming to enhance spiritual awareness and personal power. The rituals were elaborate and corrupting, designed to create powerful emotional experiences while systematically breaking down spiritual resistance through participation in activities that violated fundamental Imperial religious principles. The housing arrangements provided for advancing members included private accommodations and improved living conditions that created material incentives for continued advancement while facilitating the privacy necessary for more sensitive cult activities and advanced spiritual practices. The arrangements were comfortable and seductive, demonstrating cult resources while creating lifestyle improvements that made departure increasingly difficult and costly. The medical care provided by cult members included both conventional treatment and alternative healing practices that claimed spiritual enhancement while actually creating dependency and vulnerability to cult influence through systematic exposure to corrupting substances and spiritual techniques. The care was effective and concerning, demonstrating cult capabilities while creating additional methods of control and influence over member behavior and loyalty. The recreational activities available to cult members included cultural pursuits and social events that provided stress relief and entertainment, while also serving indoctrination purposes and community building that reinforced cult ideology through positive association and peer pressure. The activities were diverse and engaging, creating quality of life improvements that made cult membership attractive while serving organizational objectives. The educational opportunities provided for interested members included advanced theological study and practical training in various skills, while building intellectual capacity and personal capabilities that served both individual development and collective cult objectives. The opportunities were genuine and valuable, demonstrating cult investment in member development, while creating additional emotional and practical bonds that made departure increasingly difficult. The career advancement possibilities available through cult connections included both legitimate employment opportunities and advancement within cult hierarchy that provided status and influence, while creating material incentives for continued loyalty and spiritual development according to cult theological principles. The possibilities were attractive and corrupting, demonstrating cult influence while creating practical benefits that competed with spiritual concerns and imperial loyalty for individual priority and commitment. Chapter 3. Whispers of Corruption. The gradual exposure to deeper levels of cult theology revealed the systematic nature of spiritual corruption that characterized their approach to human psychological and spiritual manipulation, involving techniques that combined legitimate spiritual practices with heretical concepts designed to break down individual resistance while creating dependency on cult guidance for spiritual direction and personal meaning. The exposure was carefully controlled and progressive, designed to prevent the psychological shock that might trigger rejection while systematically undermining spiritual defenses through intellectual seduction and emotional manipulation. The advanced ritual practices introduced during my third month of infiltration included activities that required direct participation in ceremonies that invoked chaotic spiritual entities while claiming to enhance personal spiritual awareness and connection to divine truth that imperial doctrines supposedly concealed from faithful citizens. The practices were elaborate and disturbing, combining familiar religious symbolism with obviously corrupting elements that challenged every aspect of proper spiritual development while creating powerful psychological experiences that bound participants together through shared transgression. The theological discussions that accompanied ritual advancement included detailed exploration of chaos philosophy and systematic critique of imperial religious doctrine that claimed to reveal the limitations and deceptions inherent in conventional spiritual teaching, while offering alternative understanding that promised greater personal power and spiritual fulfillment. The discussions were intellectually sophisticated and spiritually dangerous, using genuine theological knowledge to make heretical concepts appear reasonable, while gradually eroding faith through systematic exposure to forbidden spiritual concepts. The personal counseling provided by cult spiritual advisors included individual guidance and psychological support that addressed specific personal struggles, while gradually introducing corrupting concepts that promised solutions through spiritual practices that directly violated imperial religious law and proper spiritual development. The counseling was personalized and effective, demonstrating sophisticated understanding of human psychology while systematically exploiting individual vulnerabilities to advance cult conversion objectives. The meditation techniques taught during advanced spiritual training claimed to enhance awareness and personal power, while actually creating psychological vulnerability to corrupting influences and chaotic spiritual entities seeking human agents for material world activities. The techniques were subtle and progressive, beginning with practices that appeared beneficial, while gradually introducing elements that compromised spiritual defenses and created openings for dangerous spiritual influences. The community service activities organized by cult leadership included charitable work and social activism that appeared to serve legitimate humanitarian purposes, while actually advancing cult influence through positive community relationships and demonstrating cult commitment to social improvement. The activities were genuine and beneficial, creating positive associations with cult membership, while providing opportunities for recruitment and influence expansion that served long-term strategic objectives. The recruitment responsibilities assigned to advancing members included identification of potential candidates and preliminary assessment of conversion prospects, while learning sophisticated psychological manipulation techniques that enabled effective exploitation of personal vulnerabilities and emotional needs. The responsibilities provided insight into cult expansion strategies, while requiring participation in activities that compromise my operational security and spiritual integrity through involvement in systematic spiritual corruption. The financial contributions required from members included both regular donations that supported cult operations and special assessments that funded specific projects and activities, while creating material investment that made departure financially costly and emotionally difficult. The contributions were substantial and progressive, designed to create economic dependency while demonstrating commitment that qualified members for advancement and increased trust within cult hierarchy. The social isolation that resulted from deepening cult involvement included gradual disconnection from family and friends outside cult community, while creating dependency on cult relationships and support systems that made departure psychologically and practically difficult. The isolation was systematic and inevitable, designed to eliminate external influences while creating total reliance on cult community for social needs and emotional support. The psychological conditioning that accompanied advanced cult membership included systematic reinforcement of cult ideology and gradual erosion of individual critical thinking, while building emotional dependency on cult approval and validation that made independent decision-making increasingly difficult and anxiety-provoking. The conditioning was subtle and comprehensive, utilizing sophisticated psychological techniques to break down individual autonomy while creating psychological submission to cult authority and spiritual guidance. The operational training provided to trusted members included instruction in covert activities and intelligence gathering, while building capabilities for various mission activities that served cult strategic objectives throughout Imperial territory. The training was professional and concerning, demonstrating access to expertise that suggested infiltration of Imperial security organizations or recruitment of qualified personnel from legitimate military and intelligence institutions. The spiritual experiences induced through advanced practices included altered states of consciousness and apparent supernatural phenomena that claimed to demonstrate the reality of chaotic spiritual powers while actually creating psychological vulnerability to corrupting influences that could compromise individual will and spiritual integrity. The experiences were powerful and convincing, designed to provide empirical validation of cult theology while creating spiritual openings that facilitated deeper corruption and psychological control. The hierarchical advancement available to dedicated members involved progression through multiple levels of authority and responsibility, while gaining access to increasingly sensitive cult activities and advanced spiritual knowledge that revealed deeper levels of heretical theology and operational planning. The advancement was gradual and merit-based, creating incentives for continued commitment while providing insights into cult structure and strategic objectives that served my intelligence-gathering mission. The ritual calendar followed by cult members included regular ceremonies and special observances that marked important spiritual occasions, while reinforcing cult ideology through repeated participation in corrupting activities that systematically broke down spiritual resistance. The calendar was comprehensive and demanding, creating constant immersion in cult spiritual practices while providing structure and meaning that competed with imperial religious observance for individual time and spiritual attention. The theological library maintained by cult leadership included extensive collection of forbidden texts and heretical spiritual materials that provided advanced education for qualified members while demonstrating cult sophistication and resources that exceeded typical chaos cult capabilities. The library was impressive and dangerous, containing materials that represented generations of accumulated forbidden knowledge while providing access to spiritual information that could permanently compromise individual salvation. The communication protocols established for operational security included both conventional methods and esoteric spiritual practices that claimed to enable secure information exchange while actually creating vulnerability to chaotic spiritual influences that could compromise operational security through supernatural surveillance and influence. The protocols were effective and concerning, facilitating coordination while creating security vulnerabilities that exceeded anything achievable through conventional intelligence methods. The personal transformation expected of advancing members included systematic personality modification, and behavioral changes that demonstrated genuine spiritual conversion, while actually representing psychological manipulation and spiritual corruption that served cult objectives rather than authentic personal development. The transformation was gradual and comprehensive, designed to create individuals who served cult interests while believing they were achieving spiritual enlightenment and personal fulfillment. The living arrangements provided for advanced members included private quarters and improved accommodations, while facilitating the privacy necessary for more sensitive cult activities and personal spiritual practices that required isolation from potential Imperial observation. The arrangements were comfortable and isolating, creating material benefits while enabling deeper involvement in dangerous spiritual practices that could compromise individual salvation and operational security. The recreational activities organized for cult members included cultural events and social gatherings that provided stress relief and entertainment, while also serving indoctrination purposes through positive association and peer reinforcement of cult values and ideology. The activities were engaging and corrupting, designed to create emotional attachment to cult community, while gradually normalizing concepts and behaviors that facilitated spiritual degradation and operational commitment. The medical services provided by cult healers included both conventional treatment and alternative practices that claimed spiritual enhancement while actually creating dependency on cult resources and vulnerability to influence through systematic exposure to corrupting substances and spiritual techniques. The services were effective and concerning, demonstrating cult capabilities while creating additional methods of control that made departure difficult and potentially dangerous to individual health and welfare. Chapter 4: The Deepest Circle. The invitation to join the inner circle of cult leadership came after 6 months of careful advancement through their hierarchy, marking my acceptance into the most sensitive operational levels, where the true scope of their heretical activities and strategic objectives would be revealed through direct participation in activities that exceeded anything I had previously experienced during infiltration operations. The invitation was both privilege and test, requiring demonstration of absolute commitment, while providing access to information that justified the enormous risks associated with deep penetration of sophisticated chaos cult operations. The initiation ceremony for Inner Circle membership involved participation in rituals that directly invoked chaotic entities while requiring personal spiritual commitment that crossed every line of acceptable behavior for faithful Imperial citizens, creating moral and spiritual crisis that threatened both my operational security and personal salvation, despite months of careful psychological preparation. The ceremony was elaborate and horrifying, combining familiar religious elements with obviously blasphemous activities that challenged fundamental beliefs while creating powerful psychological experiences designed to bind participants through shared transgression. The advanced theological education provided to Inner Circle members included detailed study of chaos theory and practical instruction in corrupting spiritual techniques that promised enhanced personal power while systematically breaking down spiritual defenses through exposure to forbidden knowledge that could permanently compromise individual salvation and Imperial loyalty. The education was comprehensive and seductive, using intellectual sophistication to make heretical concepts appear reasonable while providing access to spiritual information that exceeded anything available through legitimate Imperial religious institutions. The operational responsibilities assigned to Inner Circle members included direct participation in cult strategic planning and coordination of expansion activities that targeted specific Imperial institutions and geographic regions for infiltration and conversion according to long-term objectives that threatened sector-wide security. The responsibilities provided comprehensive insight into cult capabilities while requiring active participation in activities that directly threatened Imperial security and civilian safety. The leadership structure within the Inner Circle revealed the true scope of cult organization and strategic planning, involving coordination with other heretical groups and external entities that provided resources and guidance for activities that transcended simple religious conversion to encompass systematic subversion of Imperial authority and social order. The structure was sophisticated and extensive, demonstrating connections and capabilities that exceeded anything typically associated with chaos cult operations. The communication networks utilized by Inner Circle leadership included both technological systems and esoteric spiritual methods that enabled coordination across vast distances while maintaining operational security through techniques that exceeded conventional Imperial counterintelligence capabilities. The networks were impressive and concerning, facilitating strategic coordination while creating vulnerabilities that required supernatural methods for detection and interdiction. The financial operations conducted at Inner Circle levels included legitimate business activities and illegal enterprises that generated substantial resources while providing cover for operational activities that served cult expansion and strategic objectives throughout Imperial space. The operations were diverse and profitable, demonstrating business acumen and criminal sophistication that enabled sustainable funding for long-term strategic activities and organizational development. The recruitment strategies employed by Inner Circle leadership included systematic infiltration of Imperial institutions and targeted conversion of influential individuals whose positions enabled advancement of cult objectives through legitimate channels while avoiding detection by conventional security measures. The strategies were sophisticated and effective, demonstrating deep understanding of Imperial institutional vulnerabilities while utilizing psychological techniques that ensured loyal conversion rather than simple cooperation. The ritual activities conducted by Inner Circle members included ceremonies that directly communicated with chaotic entities while receiving guidance and empowerment that enhanced cult capabilities through supernatural assistance and spiritual corruption that fundamentally altered participant psychology and spiritual condition. The activities were elaborate and dangerous, creating genuine supernatural phenomena while systematically corrupting participants through direct exposure to chaotic influences that exceeded human psychological resistance. The strategic planning sessions, attended by Inner Circle members, revealed long-term objectives that included systematic subversion of Imperial authority and preparation for coordinated uprising that would establish chaotic governance across multiple worlds while eliminating Imperial resistance through comprehensive infiltration and conversion operations. The planning was detailed and ambitious, demonstrating organizational sophistication while revealing threats that exceeded anything previously encountered in conventional chaos cult investigation. The operational training provided to Inner Circle members included advanced combat techniques and covert operations, while building capabilities for various mission activities that included assassination, sabotage, and psychological warfare designed to advance cult objectives through systematic elimination of Imperial resistance and infrastructure. The training was professional and comprehensive, demonstrating access to military expertise while building individual capabilities that posed direct threats to Imperial security and civilian safety. The spiritual practices required of Inner Circle members included regular communion with chaotic entities and participation in corrupting rituals that systematically broke down individual spiritual defenses while creating psychological dependency on supernatural guidance and empowerment that served cult objectives rather than authentic spiritual development. The practices were demanding and corrupting, designed to create individuals whose enhanced capabilities served chaotic interests while eliminating conventional human moral constraints and spiritual protections. The technological resources available to Inner Circle operations included sophisticated equipment and communication systems that exceeded typical cult capabilities while demonstrating access to advanced Imperial technology through infiltration or theft that enabled operational effectiveness beyond anything achievable through conventional criminal resources. The resources were impressive and concerning, indicating security breaches within Imperial institutions, while providing cult members with capabilities that posed significant threats to Imperial operations and civilian security. The intelligence-gathering activities conducted by Inner Circle members included systematic surveillance of Imperial institutions and personnel, while building comprehensive databases of vulnerabilities and opportunities that enabled strategic planning for expansion and subversion operations throughout Imperial territory. The activities were thorough and professional, demonstrating operational sophistication while creating security threats that exceeded conventional criminal intelligence capabilities. The personal relationships formed within Inner Circle membership created emotional bonds and mutual dependencies that complicated my operational objectives while providing insights into cult psychology and the effectiveness of their conversion techniques on educated and sophisticated individuals from various imperial backgrounds. The relationships were genuine and troubling, demonstrating the human cost of cult activities while revealing the psychological techniques employed to maintain absolute loyalty despite obvious moral and spiritual corruption. The living arrangements provided for inner circle members included luxury accommodations and enhanced security, while creating isolation from potential imperial surveillance and facilitating the privacy necessary for sensitive operational activities and advanced spiritual practices. The arrangements were impressive and isolating, demonstrating cult resources while creating lifestyle benefits that made departure extremely difficult and financially costly. The medical services provided to inner circle members included both conventional treatment and experimental procedures that claimed spiritual enhancement while actually creating physical modifications and psychological alterations that served cult objectives through systematic transformation of human physiology and mental capacity. The services were advanced and concerning, demonstrating access to medical expertise while creating irreversible changes that bound participants to cult community through practical dependency and physical modification. The cultural activities organized for inner circle members included educational programs and social events that provided intellectual stimulation and community building, while also serving indoctrination purposes through exposure to advanced heretical theology and philosophical concepts that challenged conventional imperial intellectual tradition. The activities were sophisticated and engaging, creating positive associations with cult membership while systematically undermining imperial cultural identity and moral foundations. The security measures implemented for inner circle protection included both conventional methods and supernatural defenses that provided protection against imperial investigation, while maintaining operational security through techniques that exceeded typical criminal capabilities. The measures were comprehensive and effective, demonstrating understanding of imperial counterintelligence methods while utilizing supernatural resources that created detection challenges for conventional investigation techniques. The advancement opportunities available within inner circle hierarchy included progression to leadership positions and specialized responsibilities that provided authority and influence, while creating deeper involvement in cult activities that served long-term strategic objectives and organizational expansion throughout imperial space. The opportunities were attractive and corrupting, providing career advancement while requiring deeper spiritual compromise that made departure increasingly difficult and psychologically costly. The final revelation that awaited inner circle members involved direct communication with chaotic entities and comprehensive understanding of cult ultimate objectives that transcended simple religious conversion to encompass systematic transformation of human civilization according to chaotic principles that challenged every foundation of imperial society and spiritual tradition. The revelation was comprehensive and terrifying, providing complete understanding while creating a moral crisis that threatened both operational security and personal salvation, despite years of careful preparation and spiritual conditioning. Chapter 5: Dancing with Damnation. The direct communication with chaotic entities that characterized inner circle spiritual practices created psychological and spiritual crisis that exceeded anything anticipated during mission preparation, involving exposure to consciousness that transcended human understanding while offering knowledge and power that challenged fundamental assumptions about reality and divine authority. The communication was immediate and overwhelming, creating experiences that felt more authentic than normal reality, while systematically undermining faith through exposure to cosmic perspectives that contradicted imperial theological doctrine. The knowledge transmitted through supernatural contact included detailed understanding of galactic history and cosmic order that revealed the limited nature of imperial understanding, while offering alternative perspectives that claimed to expose the deceptions inherent in conventional religious doctrine and political authority. The knowledge was comprehensive and seductive, using genuine insights to validate heretical concepts, while gradually eroding faith through systematic revelation of information that challenged basic assumptions about divine providence and human purpose. The personal empowerment offered through chaotic communion included enhanced physical capabilities and expanded consciousness that provided tangible benefits while creating dependency on supernatural assistance for continued effectiveness and spiritual fulfillment. The empowerment was genuine and corrupting, demonstrating the reality of chaotic spiritual forces while creating practical advantages that made rejection increasingly difficult despite obvious spiritual dangers and moral implications. The psychological transformation that accompanied sustained exposure to chaotic influences included gradual alteration of personality and value systems, while creating new priorities and motivations that served chaotic objectives, rather than imperial loyalty or personal moral convictions. The transformation was subtle and progressive, designed to appear natural while systematically replacing human moral constraints with chaotic principles that justified any action in service of ultimate objectives. The strategic intelligence revealed through supernatural sources included comprehensive understanding of imperial military capabilities and political vulnerabilities, while providing tactical guidance for cult operations that exceeded anything achievable through conventional intelligence gathering methods. The intelligence was detailed and valuable, demonstrating the reality of supernatural assistance, while creating operational advantages that served cult expansion and subversion activities throughout Imperial territory. The operational capabilities enhanced through chaotic empowerment included combat effectiveness and tactical awareness that exceeded normal human limitations, while providing advantages that made cult members formidable opponents for conventional Imperial security forces. The capabilities were impressive and concerning, demonstrating the practical benefits of chaotic alliance, while creating security threats that required specialized Imperial response and countermeasures. The moral flexibility that resulted from prolonged exposure to chaotic influences included gradual erosion of conventional ethical constraints and acceptance of actions that would have been previously unthinkable, while serving cult objectives through elimination of psychological barriers that limited operational effectiveness. The flexibility was liberating and corrupting, enabling actions that served immediate objectives while systematically eliminating moral constraints that provided spiritual protection and human dignity. The ritual responsibilities assigned to empowered members included leading ceremonies and conducting spiritual practices that facilitated communication with chaotic entities, while serving as conduits for supernatural influence that enhanced cult capabilities through direct divine assistance. The responsibilities were significant and dangerous, providing authority while requiring spiritual commitment that crossed every line of acceptable behavior for faithful Imperial citizens. The recruitment effectiveness enhanced through supernatural assistance included psychological insight and persuasive capability that enabled successful conversion of resistant individuals through exploitation of spiritual vulnerabilities that conventional manipulation couldn't access. The effectiveness was remarkable and terrifying, demonstrating the power of chaotic empowerment while creating ethical crisis about participation in spiritual corruption that permanently damaged individual souls and Imperial loyalty. The financial resources generated through supernatural guidance included investment opportunities and criminal enterprises that provided substantial wealth while demonstrating the practical benefits of chaotic alliance through material success that exceeded anything achievable through legitimate means. The resources were impressive and seductive, creating lifestyle improvements while binding participants through economic dependency and material benefits that made departure increasingly costly and difficult. The technological enhancements provided through chaotic knowledge included understanding of Imperial systems and engineering principles that enabled operational capabilities beyond conventional criminal resources, while providing strategic advantages through technological superiority and innovation. The enhancements were valuable and concerning, demonstrating supernatural assistance while creating security threats that exceeded typical cult capabilities. The political influence gained through cult advancement included access to Imperial officials and institutional leverage that enabled strategic manipulation, while providing opportunities for systematic subversion that served long-term objectives through legitimate channels. The influence was substantial and dangerous, demonstrating cult penetration of imperial institutions while creating security vulnerabilities that threatened government stability and administrative effectiveness. The spiritual experiences provided through advanced practices included direct perception of chaotic realms and communication with entities that claimed divine authority while offering cosmic perspective that transcended human understanding and conventional religious doctrine. The experiences were profound and corrupting, providing genuine supernatural encounters while systematically undermining faith through exposure to spiritual realities that contradicted imperial theological tradition. The community bonds formed through shared corruption created relationships that transcended conventional human connection while providing emotional support and mutual understanding that made departure psychologically devastating and practically impossible. The bonds were genuine and troubling, demonstrating the human cost of spiritual corruption while revealing the sophisticated psychological techniques employed to maintain absolute loyalty despite obvious moral degradation. The leadership opportunities available to empowered members included authority over cult operations and strategic planning, while providing status and influence that satisfied human needs for significance and accomplishment through service to objectives that claimed cosmic importance and divine approval. The opportunities were attractive and corrupting, providing career advancement while requiring deeper spiritual compromise that made salvation increasingly distant and unlikely. The personal relationships formed with chaotic entities included ongoing communication and spiritual guidance that provided emotional fulfillment and intellectual stimulation, while creating dependency on supernatural assistance for psychological stability and spiritual direction. The relationships were intimate and dangerous, offering genuine connection while systematically undermining human autonomy and spiritual independence through divine manipulation and psychological control. The operational security enhanced through supernatural protection included defense against imperial investigation and counterintelligence, while providing warning of threats and guidance for avoiding detection through methods that exceeded conventional criminal capabilities. The security was effective and concerning, demonstrating supernatural assistance while creating investigation challenges for imperial counterintelligence and law enforcement personnel. The cultural transformation promoted through cult advancement included rejection of imperial traditions and adoption of alternative values that served chaotic objectives while claiming to represent authentic human potential and spiritual development. The transformation was comprehensive and systematic, designed to create individuals whose cultural identity served chaotic interests while eliminating loyalty to imperial civilization and traditional moral frameworks. The medical modifications available through cult resources included physical enhancements and genetic alterations that provided improved capabilities while creating irreversible changes that bound participants to cult community through practical dependency and physiological modification. The modifications were advanced and irreversible, demonstrating cult capabilities while creating permanent alterations that made departure impossible without losing enhanced abilities and modified physiology. The intellectual development provided through cult education included advanced knowledge and theoretical understanding that exceeded conventional imperial academic institutions, while building capabilities that served cult objectives through enhanced individual effectiveness and strategic understanding. The development was genuine and valuable, providing educational opportunities while creating intellectual dependency that made conventional imperial society seem primitive and intellectually limiting. The final transformation that awaited dedicated members involved complete spiritual conversion and psychological reconstruction that eliminated conventional human moral constraints while creating perfect servants of chaotic objectives through systematic replacement of human values with divine priorities and cosmic perspectives. The transformation was comprehensive and permanent, representing ultimate achievement within cult hierarchy, while eliminating any possibility of return to conventional human existence or imperial loyalty. Chapter 6. The Bleeding Edge. The systematic exposure to increasingly dangerous spiritual practices pushed the boundaries of human psychological resilience while revealing the true scope of chaotic corruption that characterized advanced cult operations, involving activities that transcended simple heretical worship to encompass fundamental alteration of human nature through supernatural transformation that eliminated conventional moral constraints and spiritual protections. The exposure was gradual but inexorable, designed to prevent psychological shock while systematically breaking down individual resistance through cumulative spiritual damage that made retreat increasingly impossible, despite growing awareness of personal danger. The advanced ritual calendar, followed by inner circle members, included regular ceremonies that required direct participation in activities that violated every principle of imperial religious doctrine, while claiming to enhance spiritual awareness and personal power through communion with entities that offered cosmic knowledge in exchange for human loyalty and service. The calendar was demanding and comprehensive, creating constant immersion in corrupting activities, while providing structure and meaning that competed with imperial religious observance for individual spiritual attention and moral commitment. The psychological conditioning techniques employed during advanced spiritual training included systematic personality modification and memory alteration that claimed to remove psychological limitations while actually eliminating moral constraints and spiritual defenses that provided protection against supernatural manipulation and corruption. The techniques were sophisticated and irreversible, utilizing advanced understanding of human psychology while serving chaotic objectives through creation of individuals whose enhanced capabilities came at the cost of human dignity and spiritual integrity. The operational assignments given to fully empowered members included direct action missions that targeted imperial institutions and personnel, while utilizing supernatural capabilities to achieve objectives that served cult strategic expansion and long-term subversion goals throughout imperial territory. The assignments were dangerous and effective, demonstrating enhanced capabilities while requiring participation in activities that directly threatened imperial security and civilian safety through systematic elimination of resistance and infrastructure. The supernatural abilities manifested through complete spiritual conversion included enhanced physical capabilities and expanded consciousness that provided tangible advantages while creating dependency on chaotic empowerment for continued effectiveness and personal fulfillment. The abilities were impressive and corrupting, demonstrating the reality of supernatural assistance while binding recipients through practical benefits that made rejection psychologically and materially impossible despite obvious spiritual costs. The communication networks established through chaotic empowerment included direct consciousness contact and supernatural information sharing that enabled coordination across vast distances while maintaining operational security through methods that exceeded conventional imperial counterintelligence capabilities. The networks were efficient and concerning, facilitating strategic coordination while creating security challenges that required specialized imperial response and supernatural countermeasures for effective detection and interdiction. The recruitment responsibilities assigned to empowered operatives included systematic infiltration of imperial institutions and targeted conversion of influential individuals whose positions enabled advancement of cult objectives through legitimate channels while avoiding detection by conventional security screening and surveillance protocols. The responsibilities were sophisticated and successful, demonstrating operational effectiveness while creating security breaches that threatened imperial institutional integrity and governmental stability. The financial operations conducted through supernatural guidance included legitimate business ventures and criminal enterprises that generated substantial resources while providing cover for operational activities that served cult expansion throughout imperial space. The operations were diverse and profitable, demonstrating business sophistication while creating sustainable funding for long-term strategic objectives and organizational development that exceeded typical criminal capabilities. The technological resources available through chaotic assistance included advanced equipment and specialized knowledge that exceeded conventional cult capabilities, while providing operational advantages through technological superiority and innovation that served strategic objectives. The resources were impressive and concerning, indicating supernatural guidance while creating security threats that exceeded typical criminal technological capabilities and conventional Imperial defensive measures. The intelligence-gathering activities conducted through supernatural methods included comprehensive surveillance of Imperial operations and strategic planning, while building detailed understanding of vulnerabilities and opportunities that enabled cult advancement through systematic exploitation of institutional weaknesses and security failures. The activities were thorough and effective, demonstrating supernatural assistance while creating intelligence advantages that exceeded conventional criminal capabilities. The personal transformation required for complete empowerment included systematic elimination of conventional human moral constraints and adoption of chaotic principles that justified any action in service of ultimate objectives, while claiming cosmic significance and divine approval for activities that violated every standard of human decency and spiritual integrity. The transformation was comprehensive and irreversible, creating individuals whose enhanced capabilities came at the cost of human conscience and spiritual salvation. The security measures implemented through supernatural protection included defense against Imperial investigation and counterintelligence, while providing warning of threats and guidance for operational security that exceeded conventional criminal defensive capabilities. The measures were effective and sophisticated, demonstrating supernatural assistance while creating investigation challenges that required specialized Imperial response and supernatural countermeasures for successful penetration. The strategic planning conducted through divine guidance included long-term objectives that encompassed systematic subversion of Imperial authority and preparation for coordinated uprising that would establish chaotic governance across multiple worlds while eliminating Imperial resistance through comprehensive conversion and elimination operations. The planning was detailed and ambitious, demonstrating organizational sophistication, while revealing threats that exceeded conventional security planning and defensive capabilities. The cultural indoctrination promoted through advanced education included systematic rejection of Imperial traditions and adoption of alternative values that served chaotic objectives while claiming to represent authentic human potential and spiritual development beyond conventional religious and moral limitations. The indoctrination was comprehensive and effective, creating cultural identity that served chaotic interests, while eliminating loyalty to Imperial civilization and traditional moral frameworks that provided spiritual protection and social stability. The medical modifications provided through cult resources included physical enhancements and genetic alterations that improved individual capabilities while creating irreversible changes that bound participants to cult community through physiological dependency and supernatural modification that eliminated possibilities for conventional medical treatment or social reintegration. The modifications were advanced and permanent, demonstrating cult capabilities while creating irreversible commitment that made departure impossible without losing enhanced abilities and modified physiology. The leadership opportunities available within advanced hierarchy included authority over strategic operations and personnel management, while providing status and influence that satisfied human needs for significance and accomplishment through service to objectives that claimed cosmic importance and divine mandate. The opportunities were attractive and corrupting, providing career advancement while requiring spiritual commitment that eliminated possibilities for conventional human relationships and social integration. The ritual responsibilities assigned to fully empowered leaders included conducting major ceremonies and facilitating communication with chaotic entities, while serving as conduits for supernatural influence that enhanced cult capabilities through direct divine assistance and spiritual guidance. The responsibilities were significant and dangerous, providing authority while requiring spiritual commitment that crossed every line of acceptable behavior for faithful Imperial citizens and human beings. The operational effectiveness achieved through complete empowerment included combat capabilities and strategic awareness that exceeded normal human limitations, while providing advantages that made cult members formidable opponents for conventional Imperial security forces and military personnel. The effectiveness was impressive and concerning, demonstrating supernatural enhancement while creating security threats that required specialized Imperial response and enhanced defensive measures. The psychological integration required for sustainable empowerment included acceptance of cosmic perspectives and divine priorities that transcended conventional human understanding, while eliminating moral constraints that provided psychological protection against supernatural manipulation and spiritual corruption. The integration was demanding and irreversible, creating individuals whose enhanced consciousness came at the cost of human empathy and spiritual protection that provided moral guidance and ethical constraints. The final revelation provided to completely empowered members included a comprehensive understanding of chaotic objectives and cosmic order that revealed the ultimate purpose of cult activities, while demonstrating the scope and significance of their contribution to universal transformation according to divine principles that claimed superiority over imperial doctrine and human moral tradition. The revelation was complete and terrifying, providing total understanding while creating a moral crisis that threatened both operational security and any remaining spiritual integrity, despite years of gradual conditioning and systematic corruption. Chapter 7: The Abyss, Gazing Back. The point of no return in my infiltration mission came when I was selected to participate in a ritual that would grant me direct communion with a greater demon of chaos, an honor reserved for only the most trusted and spiritually advanced cult members whose complete loyalty had been proven through years of dedicated service and progressive spiritual corruption. The selection was both recognition of my successful deep cover and ultimate test that would either complete my spiritual transformation or expose my true identity through supernatural perception that could penetrate any conventional deception. The preparation for demon communion involved extensive spiritual conditioning and psychological modification that claimed to strengthen consciousness for direct contact with divine entities, while actually breaking down final resistance to complete spiritual corruption and supernatural control that would eliminate any remaining human autonomy or moral constraint. The preparation was intensive and irreversible, involving techniques that permanently altered consciousness while creating spiritual vulnerability that could destroy individual identity through exposure to chaotic influences that exceeded human psychological capacity for resistance. The ritual chamber constructed for demon summoning represented the pinnacle of cult achievement and spiritual sophistication, combining ancient architectural principles with modern technology to create space that facilitated supernatural manifestation while providing protection for participants whose consciousness could be destroyed through uncontrolled exposure to chaotic entities. The chamber was magnificent and terrifying, demonstrating cult resources while creating an environment that radiated supernatural energy and spiritual corruption that challenged faith through direct exposure to blasphemous architecture and obvious heretical symbolism. The ceremony that preceded demon contact included elaborate preparations and preliminary rituals that involved the systematic sacrifice of captured imperial citizens while using their life force to power supernatural summoning that would bring chaotic entities into material reality for direct communication and spiritual instruction. The ceremony was horrific and elaborate, combining familiar religious elements with obviously blasphemous activities that violated every principle of human decency while creating powerful supernatural phenomena that demonstrated the reality of chaotic power. The moment of demon manifestation created psychological and spiritual crisis that exceeded anything experienced during months of careful infiltration, involving direct exposure to consciousness that transcended human understanding while radiating corruption that challenged fundamental beliefs about reality and divine authority through immediate perception of supernatural evil that exceeded theoretical knowledge or intellectual preparation. The manifestation was overwhelming and undeniable, creating direct confrontation with chaotic evil while threatening to destroy individual sanity through exposure to malevolent intelligence that operated according to principles that contradicted every assumption about cosmic order. The communication that followed demon manifestation included direct consciousness contact and information transfer that revealed the true scope of cult objectives while offering personal empowerment that transcended human limitations through supernatural enhancement that came at the cost of spiritual salvation and human identity. The communication was intimate and corrupting, providing genuine knowledge while systematically destroying moral constraints through exposure to cosmic perspectives that justified any action in service of ultimate objectives that claimed divine mandate and cosmic significance. The knowledge transmitted through demon contact included detailed understanding of Imperial vulnerabilities and strategic opportunities, while providing tactical guidance for cult operations that exceeded anything achievable through conventional intelligence gathering or military planning. The knowledge was comprehensive and valuable, demonstrating supernatural assistance, while revealing information that could enable cult victory through systematic exploitation of Imperial weaknesses and security failures that conventional investigation couldn't detect. The personal empowerment offered through Demon Alliance included enhanced physical capabilities and expanded consciousness that provided immediate benefits, while creating dependency on supernatural assistance for continued effectiveness and spiritual fulfillment through communion with entities that claimed divine authority and cosmic wisdom. The empowerment was tangible and seductive, demonstrating practical advantages while binding recipients through spiritual corruption that eliminated possibilities for conventional human existence or imperial loyalty. The moral transformation required for demon acceptance included systematic elimination of human conscience and adoption of chaotic principles that justified mass murder and systematic corruption, while claiming cosmic significance and divine approval for activities that violated every standard of human decency and spiritual integrity. The transformation was comprehensive and permanent, creating individuals whose enhanced capabilities came at the cost of human empathy and moral constraint that provided ethical guidance and spiritual protection. The operational assignments given through Demon Guidance included specific targeting of Imperial installations and personnel, while utilizing supernatural capabilities to achieve objectives that served cult strategic expansion throughout Imperial territory. The assignments were precise and deadly, demonstrating supernatural intelligence while requiring participation in activities that directly threatened Imperial security and civilian safety through systematic elimination of resistance and infrastructure. The psychological integration challenged by Demon Communion included acceptance of cosmic perspectives that transcended human understanding while maintaining functional consciousness, despite exposure to malevolent intelligence that operated according to principles that contradicted fundamental assumptions about reality and moral order. The integration was demanding and dangerous, requiring psychological flexibility that approached mental breakdown while preserving operational effectiveness necessary for continued cult service. The spiritual corruption accelerated through demon contact included systematic replacement of human values with chaotic principles, while eliminating spiritual defenses that provided protection against supernatural manipulation and eternal damnation through complete surrender of individual will and moral autonomy. The corruption was progressive and irreversible, destroying essential human characteristics while creating perfect servants of chaotic objectives through elimination of conscience and spiritual resistance. The security challenges created by demon awareness included supernatural perception that could penetrate conventional deception while detecting Imperial agents through spiritual recognition that exceeded technological surveillance or psychological analysis. The challenges were unprecedented and concerning, creating investigation risks that required supernatural countermeasures while threatening operational security through divine perception that could identify Imperial loyalty despite perfect behavioral compliance with cult requirements. The technological enhancements provided through demon knowledge included understanding of Imperial systems and advanced engineering principles that enabled operational capabilities beyond conventional resources, while providing strategic advantages through technological innovation and supernatural assistance. The enhancements were valuable and dangerous, demonstrating chaotic empowerment while creating security threats that exceeded typical cult capabilities and conventional Imperial defensive measures. The recruitment effectiveness, enhanced through demon empowerment, included psychological insight and persuasive capability that enabled successful conversion of previously resistant individuals through exploitation of spiritual vulnerabilities that conventional manipulation couldn't access or overcome. The effectiveness was remarkable and terrifying, demonstrating supernatural assistance while creating ethical crisis about participation in systematic spiritual corruption that permanently damaged individual souls and Imperial loyalty. The intelligence capabilities expanded through supernatural assistance, included comprehensive understanding of Imperial operations and strategic planning, while providing real-time tactical awareness that enabled cult advantage through information superiority and strategic foresight. The capabilities were impressive and concerning, demonstrating supernatural intelligence while creating operational advantages that exceeded conventional criminal resources and Imperial counterintelligence capabilities. The personal relationships formed through demon communion included ongoing spiritual guidance and emotional fulfillment that provided meaning and purpose while creating dependency on supernatural assistance for psychological stability and spiritual direction through divine manipulation that eliminated human autonomy and moral independence. The relationships were intimate and corrupting, offering genuine connection while systematically undermining human dignity through supernatural control and spiritual domination. The final choice presented through Demon Alliance involved complete spiritual conversion and permanent empowerment that would eliminate remaining human limitations while requiring absolute surrender of individual will and moral conscience to chaotic objectives that claimed cosmic significance and divine mandate. The choice was ultimate and irreversible, representing complete spiritual damnation while offering tangible benefits that made rejection psychologically and practically impossible despite obvious spiritual costs and eternal consequences. The moment of decision created existential crisis that challenged every aspect of mission training and personal faith, while revealing the true cost of successful infiltration through exposure to corruption that exceeded human resistance and psychological preparation. The crisis was immediate and overwhelming, requiring choice between operational success and spiritual salvation while acknowledging that complete mission accomplishment would require permanent spiritual corruption that could destroy individual identity and eternal destiny. The internal struggle that characterized this critical moment involved conflict between duty and salvation, while acknowledging that mission success required spiritual compromise that could permanently separate me from Imperial loyalty and divine grace through participation in activities that violated every principle of human decency and spiritual integrity. The struggle was intense and personal, requiring ultimate choice about individual priorities and moral commitment, while recognizing that operational requirements had exceeded anything anticipated during mission preparation and spiritual conditioning. The resolution that emerged from this spiritual crisis would determine not only mission success, but individual destiny, while revealing the true cost of infiltration operations that pushed human psychological and spiritual resistance beyond sustainable limits through exposure to corruption that exceeded theoretical knowledge and intellectual preparation. The resolution was permanent and defining, establishing identity and moral commitment, while acknowledging that some operational objectives required personal sacrifice that exceeded conventional understanding of duty and loyalty to Imperial service.